Hello, my lovely friends. Today, another pajama set and another first impressions. I know I've been doing a lot of first impressions recently, and I do kind of want to apologize because I don't necessarily, that's not what I want to be exclusively doing. Not that I'm exclusively doing it, but you know what I mean. I just have gotten new things in. I've been buying palettes out of a sense of existential dread. So here we are. Hopefully you can just enjoy them. And once I get through this, next little while, there won't be as many first impressions. But if you're interested in this, you already know that I'm going to be doing first impressions of the One Bunny Dollhouse palette. I bought this and the Search palette at the same time. I bought this when it launched. I just feel like I had been wanting the Search palette for so long that I wanted to use that first. But anyway, here this is, and this is truly what neutral palette dreams are made of. I feel like just right at the gate, just looking at it, this palette is so just easy to use, and the way that it's arranged in terms of rows, every row is kind of its own color scheme. You have 2 rows of shimmers this time. I didn't get along super great with the shimmers in the Surge palette, so I'm interested to see how these are going to work out. I do have to play with it more, but I'm just excited. I think I'm gonna go pretty dark and smoky. That's my plan today, at least. But yeah, I love the muted neutrally tones in here. I just love it. And obviously, I mean, look at this row of dark mattes. You can't get better. Let's give it a swatch, shall we? And then we'll get to using it. So we have the first row is the row of shimmers, or the first row is the first row of shimmers. So first is the shade Mannequin, which is a beautiful pinky bronze shade. The shimmers do swatch really well. Then we have the shade Glass Eyes, which is a blue. The shade Lace, which is a really bright, sparkly white. Look at that. Almost has a gold sheen to it. The shade Pretend is an iridescent white to pink shade, which actually looks really pretty. I feel like a lot of times these shades aren't very impactful, but this looks really nice. The shade Tulle is a light pink with a gold shift. And the shade Pin Curls is a light gold. Excuse that swatch. Then we have the first row of mattes. This is the lightest row. So we have the shade Undress, which is a light peachy shade. The shade Holds Me is a light lavender. Ooh, I love that. Almost has a bit of gray to it. The shade Display is it looks like a light gray in the pan, but it does look like it has a little bit of a purpley hue. The shade Pose is a light taupe, which also almost looks like it has a pinky tone. The shade Baby Doll is a light gray pink. The shade Porcelain is a light beige. Has a peachy undertone. All of these lean very pink undertone, pink toned, I feel. Which I think is just because this is almost a peachy beige. This palette background looks like they're going to be a little bit more neutral gray in the palette, but when you actually swatch them, it definitely looks like they have pink or purple to them. Then then we have the next row of mattes, which is more mid-tone. So this is the shade Plastic, which is like an orangey peach. The shade No Strings is a like rosy brown almost. And the shade Attic is a neutral brown with like a purple undertone. Let's see if we can fit these next three on this arm. The shade Vintage is a rosy brown as well, I want to say. Leans a bit more brown. This one, the shade No Strings, almost looks like it's more mauve-y. The shade Rouge is a how do you describe this? Almost like a light burgundy, like a rosy shade. And then the shade Figure is a beautiful mossy green. So this is the first three rows. I feel like there's definitely a more like distinct color story with this, whereas the Surge was almost leaned more like off rainbow, like rainbow but not like traditional shades, like a little bit different tonally, whereas this is looking like it has more of like a distinct theme almost, I want to say. Okay, next two rows. So this row is my most anticipated row. This is the row of dark matte. So we have the shade Fasten, which is a dark brown. The shade Cinched is a really deep purple. Ooh, I love that. It's like an eggplant. The shade Stitched, I believe, is a matte black. Yeah, it's a matte black. The shade Silhouette. It looks like an even darker brown, like a dark neutral brown, whereas the first shade, Fasten, almost looks like it has purple to it. The shade Plume is a dark, like warmer purple. This is almost more of an eggplant. Well, no, I don't know. And the shade Madame is a, I believe, a dark green. Yeah, it's a really dark, grungy green. I love it. Definitely all, like, they're not all the same. They are all different in terms of undertone, but definitely in the pan they look similar. But I don't think they're very similar when you actually get them swatched out. But I also have a pretty light skin tone, so I don't know if that's going to affect it as well. Then the shade, the last row is the another row of shimmers. So we have the shade Marionette, which is this is like a deeper shimmer row. This is like a really beautiful, like rosy bronze. The shade Imaginary is a beautiful purple. The shade Harlequin, which I think I might want to use today, is a dark, oh, I think this almost is a black with sparkle. We'll see. The shade Dress Up doesn't really look very sparkly. Yeah, it's almost like more of a satin. It's a dark, like, plummy shade, like a blackened plum. The shade Little Sister looks more sparkly. Ooh, that's really sparkly. That's like a rose gold almost shade. And then the shade Chantilly. I never know if the shade is pronounced Chantilly or Chantilly, but it's a beautiful olive shimmer. I love that. So this is the second, or no, the last two rows. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to now, as I typically do up close swatches and like arm swatches and stuff of all the shades, and then we'll do an eye look together. So I think I've decided what I'm gonna do. I'm going to do, I think, something a little bit more smoky. I'm gonna start using the shade Display, which is this, it looks like almost like a taupe, like a almost gray taupey shade in the pan, but when you swatch it, it has like pretty distinct purple undertone. But yeah, I'm gonna start with this, and I've primed my eyes using my NARS smudge proof eyeshadow base, and I have not set my lids. So I'm just gonna use this, run it all through my crease. Yeah, you can definitely see that it almost looks like a really light, maybe you can see, but it almost, I'm not in the middle, am I? A really light lavender. Definitely doesn't look necessarily like a taupe. Now I'm gonna take the shade Attic, which is this, again, it kind of looks like a gray, but it's not. Or like a neutral, again, like super neutral, like almost gray taupey shade, but we'll see. I'm just gonna put this through my outer corner on my crease. What's interesting I find about this like Blend Bunny shadows is that I feel like I might expect them to be super heavy with pigment right away, but I feel like they're more buildable than anything, which I actually tend to prefer. I don't know. I just kind of expected, based on the brand, for them to be like hyper pigmented, and they swatch well, but it's just like they're definitely buildable, which I guess lends to like how well they blend. But weirdly I feel like this, well, maybe not, yeah, it has a purpley undertone, but it actually looks more taupe on my eyes than when I swatched it. I feel like it looks really quite purple. I like it though. And then I'm going to, take the shade Silhouette, which was that really dark, like neutral brown, almost black. I'm going to use this to deepen up my outer corner and my crease. Okay, I don't do cool tones that much, so I'm into it. They definitely blend very well and build really well. Generally my makeup looks really bad before it looks okay, and then it looks, I don't know, mildly good. It's in the bad stage right now, okay? So we're gonna bring it back. I thought I might use the shade Harlequin, but I actually think I'm gonna take the shade Dress Up, which is this almost like satiny plum. And if you watched my Surge palette first impressions, I had a little bit of a struggle with the shimmer formula. So instead of putting a glitter glue down, which I've been doing recently, I'm just actually gonna wet my brush instead. This is just with water, but I'm gonna just pick it up on my brush and then wet it. So I felt like, yeah, see that? I don't know if that's different or if this is a different formula or what. I don't think so. It feels the same, but this is already, I can tell, working way better. This brush too that I'm using is maybe a little bit more like textured. I don't think I used this specific brush. This is just a really old Urban Decay brush, but before I was using like quite a smooth brush. I think you need something with a little bit more texture to it that's actually gonna pick the shadows up if you want to use a brush. I still think like probably fingers is the best you're gonna get, but I do prefer a brush for like an initial application, but this right now is going on so much better than it did in the beginning. I feel like you really can get like neutral light looks, and then you can go full all the way if you want. Yeah, and definitely not super, getting so close to the mirror, not super sparkly. but it also has like a little bit more sparkle, I feel, than like a really satin shadow. But it's not, it's more satin than anything. It's not like texture enhancing or anything like that. It's pretty smooth. I understand that it looks horrifying. Then I'm going to take Attic, which was the lighter taupe, and run this over my crease one more time. Just first step in like blending this deeper shade out. Then I'm going to take Silhouette and also run this over the front of my like crease, and really making sure that I've blended the Dress Up shade. And then also taking that through my outer, it almost looks like I've done a black smoky eye, through my outer corner, and making sure, see, this is why I tend to I don't prefer necessarily, but this is like the benefit I feel like of not using glitter glue as well, is that it's just so much easier to blend shades out that are on your lid. And then this is gonna help like tone everything down a little bit more as well, but I'm gonna go back into the shade Display and then just run this over the edge. This is why I like to do this step, because number one, it really, I feel like, helps with blending so much, and number two, if I've blended a little bit too high, it kind of tones it down, brings that transitional color back. So, and then yeah, it almost like brings more gray purpliness to it. Then I'm gonna take Dress Up on my finger, very putty, like very much feels like almost like a cream shadow. And then I'm going to just intensify this, make it a little bit more even on my lid. Yeah, wet brush is definitely, I think, the way to go for sure. And then I'm going to take now the shade Pretend. So this is like the white pink duochrome shade. I really want to see what this looks like layered over this dark shade. I'm going to take this on just on my finger. I'm going to put it right now in the center of my lid. And then we'll see if I want to put it everywhere after. That's really pretty. I almost think I just want to concentrate it right in the center here. This feels like a little bit drier. I feel like the shimmer formula definitely differs. They're not all 100% the same across the board. I don't know if that's because of like you have to make it different in terms of like shades or what color it is, or I don't know. Ooh, I really like that. I'm gonna keep it same because now I have a vision for how I want this to look. So if I find a brush, I'm going to take the shade Attic, the mid-tone shade that I use, and run this all underneath my eye. Okay, I literally know. I know, just bear with me. Now I'm gonna take Silhouette and run this underneath. And then I'm going to take Display and blend everything out. Now I'm going to take Stitched, which is the black, and I'm going to put that in my outer corners just because I don't want this like gap of light here, because I want it to be really dark because my lid color is so dark. Okay, and then last step, I'm going to take the shade Lace, which is this sparkly white goldy shade, because I do want to bring some brightness to my inner corner. Again, I'm just going to pick this up on a brush and spray it. And then put this in my inner corner. That's super pretty. And then I'm gonna put some of that lace shade on my brow bone. Okay. Only I would take a neutral palette and do this with it, but I think I'm gonna leave it here. So I'm going to finish up my face, put some lashes on, liner, and come back with a finished look. Okay, so this is the finished look. I feel like I'm doing like HMV themed makeup, and I'm not mad at it. On my lips, I used my Endless Cacao, my beloved Endless Cacao, and the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in Fussy. Definitely grungy. I definitely took a neutral palette and went as bold as I possibly could, which kind of checks out for me, but I don't know, like I feel like I have my same thoughts that I had with the Surge palette, and I can relatively confidently say that a wet brush, I feel like, is going to be your best bet when using Blend Bunny's shimmers. I don't know why, I just didn't really have good experience using the shimmers with the glitter glue. I don't know, I just feel like a wet brush and or fingers is definitely the way to go after using this palette, and I really like it. I mean, I feel like the mattes, same as with the Surge palette, blended, built beautifully. Like I said when I was doing my eyeshadow initially, it's really a buildable formula. Like I think if you really like have a super tacky primer and like, oh, my eye is twitching. If you really have a super tacky primer and you really pack it on, then you can probably get, like, I mean, as with any shadow formula, the highest impact possible, but I don't set my primer, and I really, like, I actually much prefer it. I don't find it, like, incredibly pigmented right at the gate. I find that it's not sheer, but not, like, hella pigment. It's, like, a buildable formula, which honestly, for me, is perfect. And I really had no issues blending at all with either the Surge palette or this palette, and I'm really excited to play more with this palette and do some more neutral looks. It's editing Laura here, looking like a legitimate crumb. The point that I was trying to make in this next part that I don't think I successfully made is that I just like, this palette is beautiful, right? Like it's beautiful matte, super blendable, sparkly shimmers, dark mattes, like everything that I pretty much look for in a palette. Lovely, lovely formula, all that jazz. This brand is like so hyped, and these palettes are super, super hyped. And like I do think it lives up to the hype in all of those senses. Like it really is beautiful. Like I don't think that it doesn't deserve the hype, but like don't let the hype can convince you that like this is essential to go and buy. Like, you know, like I don't know why I feel the need with this specific brand to say that. I think if, in the sense of like, if you are trying not to buy makeup right now, you're trying to buy less, maybe you don't have, you know, spare funds to like drop on an eyeshadow palette right now, like don't feel too much FOMO about that. I just want to say, like, if you have matte shadows or like eyeshadow formulas and palettes that you already adore and love, this I don't think is gonna like change your life in any major way. You know what I mean? That's kind of the point that I'm saying. If you are in the market for a new eyeshadow palette, or you just, you know, you want to buy it, you're gonna, I'm sure, love it. Like I can almost guarantee that. But don't feel pressured to buy it unless you really want to. That is the point that I was trying to make. Honestly, for me, it's a combination of the deep mattes that she puts in her palettes and like the range of depths and tones that she chooses, in combination with a really, really beautiful, like flawless matte formula that really makes this like truly the complete package for me. if this was like a palette of all light mattes or mid-toned mattes, I would still say that this eyeshadow formula is really good, but I wouldn't like have the same love for it. You know what I mean? So I feel like in combination, like the color stories and the eyeshadow formula are really what comes together and makes this brand and these palettes like truly so special to me. But yeah, like it does live up to the hype, but don't feel like it's something that you've probably never tried before if you have mattes that you already really love. I'm sure you will also love this. Maybe this will be your new favorite matte formula. But you know, I don't want to like say that this is bad, because I think it's like honestly perfection in a matte formula, but I feel like there's just so much hype around this palette that it's just so easy to just be like, I must have it. And honestly, that's how I felt too. But I feel like it's just, I don't know, just something I wanted to say. I don't know why I feel so inclined to make that point. But honestly, if you're looking for a interesting neutral palette and a neutral palette that has all these beautiful, delicious matte tones in here, I really feel like you can't go wrong. I'm not gonna lie. Let me know if you've tried Blend Muddy and what you think of them. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Probably don't hate them, but you know what I mean. Thank you so much for watching yet another first impressions. I hope this was enjoyable, and I will see you all in my next video. I hope. I would love to. Bye.